Alright, buckle up because Subaru just dropped a bomb that has the entire fan base losing their absolute minds. I'm talking full-on meltdown mode across every forum, Reddit thread, and Facebook group you can imagine. The 2026 Outback just landed, and man, people are not holding back. We're talking angry essays, tearful goodbyes to the brand, and some straight-up savage takes that would make your grandmother blush. What's up, everyone? This is Andrew from Motor Reg, and today we're diving headfirst into what might be the most controversial redesign Subaru has ever dropped. We're talking about a car that loyal fans have trusted for decades, a vehicle that's taken families camping, survived brutal winters, and earned its stripes as the ultimate adventure wagon. And now? Now people are calling it a sellout, a wannabe luxury crossover, and the death of everything that made the Outback special. But here's the thing. Before we grab our pitchforks and storm Subaru headquarters, we need to break this down properly. What actually changed? Is the outrage justified? Or are people just mad because change is hard? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where this redesign went right, where it went wrong, and whether the 2026 Outback still deserves that legendary badge on the front. And hey, real quick before we get rolling, if you're into no-nonsense car content that cuts through the hype and tells it straight, do me a solid and smash that subscribe button. Hit the bell too, because we've got some seriously spicy automotive takes coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's next. Alright, let's get into it. So let's start with the elephant in the room. The price. The base 2026 Outback Premium now starts at around $36,500. Let that sink in for a second. 36.5 grand for a base model Outback. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Luke, that's not that bad compared to other mid-size SUVs, and you're right, kind of. But here's where Subaru messed up. This isn't about comparing it to a Honda Passport or a Toyota Highlander. This is about comparing it to what the Outback used to be. Just a few years ago, you could walk into a Subaru dealership and drive out in a brand new Outback for right around $30,000. 30 flat. That's a $6,000 jump in just a couple of model years. Sure, inflation hit everyone. Supply chain issues jacked up costs. Tariffs made things worse. I get all that. But Subaru fans don't care about economics when their beloved adventure wagon suddenly costs as much as a luxury vehicle. And it's not just about the money. It's about what that money represents. The Outback was never supposed to be the fancy option. It was the practical choice. The car you bought when you needed something reliable that could handle snow, mud, and that sketchy dirt road to your favorite camping spot. It was the anti-status symbol. The car that said, I don't need to impress anyone, I just need to get there and back without drama. Now it feels like Subaru is playing a different game entirely. They're going after the Patagonia-wearing, latte-sipping crowd who want their adventure vehicle to look like it costs money. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that crowd, but that's not who built the Outback's reputation. The die-hard fans feel abandoned, and honestly, I can't blame them for being upset. Let's talk about what actually changed with this redesign, because it's way more than just the price tag. Subaru went all in on repositioning the Outback, and it shows in every detail. First off, those cloth seats that used to come standard? Gone. Now you get StarTech water-resistant upholstery as the baseline. This is the same material they use in the Wilderness editions, and yeah, it's tougher and easier to clean. Perfect for dogs, kids, and muddy gear. But it's also a clear signal that Subaru is pushing this thing upmarket. Then there's the exterior design, and oh boy, this is where things get spicy. The new Outback looks boxier. The front grille is chunkier and more aggressive. The roofline sits taller. The whole stance screams crossover SUV, instead of that sleek, low-slung wagon profile that defined previous generations. People online are literally calling it a Forester XL. And as brutal as that sounds, I kind of see their point. The measurements tell part of the story, but they don't tell the whole story. Yeah, it's only about 1.5 inches taller than the 2025 model. On paper, that's nothing. But in person, it feels way more upright, way more SUV-esque, and way less like the car-based wagon that made the Outback special. That low center of gravity, that planted feel on the highway, that sense that you were driving a car that could also handle trails? It's still there technically, but the visual identity has shifted hard. And here's what really stings for long-time owners. The Outback used to stand out in a parking lot. You'd see one and immediately know it wasn't trying to be like every other crossover. It had its own vibe. Now it's starting to blend in with the crowd. It looks like Subaru took the design cues from every successful mid-size SUV, threw them in a blender and said, let's make sure we don't look too different. For a brand that built its entire reputation on being the alternative, that's a tough pill to swallow. Subaru is also playing a positioning game here. They've been slowly nudging the Outback above the Forester in their lineup. The Forester still starts around 31 grand, so that $5,000 gap between them is intentional. Subaru wants the Outback to be the premium option, the one with more space, more features, and more refinement. Problem is, fans never asked for premium. They asked for practical. Now let's pump the brakes for a second and give Subaru some credit, because they're not just sitting in their corporate office cackling while they jack up prices for no reason. There's actually some real business logic behind these decisions, even if fans don't want to hear it. Production costs have been brutal since 2020. Every automaker got hit with inflation, parts shortages, and tariff increases that made building cars way more expensive. The Outback is built in Lafayette, Indiana, and Subaru's commitment to American manufacturing means they're dealing with higher labor costs than if they just imported everything from Japan. They're also loading the 2026 Outback with features that used to be optional. Power tailgate? Standard now. Heated seats? Standard. That upgraded infotainment system with the faster processor and wireless connectivity? Yep, standard. So when you actually compare what you're getting in the base 2026 Outback Premium to what you got in previous base models, there's more equipment included. The price went up, but so did the standard feature list. And let's be real about the competition. Toyota, Honda, Mazda, everyone is raising prices. A comparably equipped RAV4 or CRV will actually cost you more than this Outback once you match the features. So Subaru isn't operating in a vacuum here. They're responding to market conditions and trying to stay competitive while still turning a profit. I'm not saying that makes fans feel better about it, but it's important context. Plus, there's the hybrid situation. Word on the street is that Subaru is gearing up to drop a hybrid Outback soon, likely using tech from their partnership with Toyota. That means this redesign might be laying the groundwork for a more fuel-efficient future version that could actually save buyers money in the long run. If they can deliver a hybrid Outback that gets 40 miles per gallon and still handles snow like a champ, that could change the whole conversation. But here's where I think Subaru really miscalculated. They forgot about the emotional connection. The Outback wasn't just transportation for a lot of people. It was part of their identity. It was the car that represented a lifestyle. Practical, unpretentious, adventure-ready. It said something about who you were. And when you mess with that kind of emotional attachment, logic and spreadsheets don't matter. People don't want to hear about production costs and market positioning. They want their car to feel like their car. This is what I call the identity crisis, and it's the heart of the problem. For decades, the Outback lived in this perfect middle ground that no other vehicle could touch. It wasn't a sedan, wasn't an SUV, wasn't a minivan. It was a wagon that could handle like a car, but had the ground clearance and all-wheel drive to tackle trails. It was the Swiss Army knife of vehicles. You could take it to the grocery store, load it up with camping gear, throw bikes on the roof, and still get decent gas mileage. That versatility was the whole point. You didn't need to buy a lifted off-road beast when the Outback could do 90% of what that truck could do while still being comfortable for daily driving. It was the underdog, the smart choice, the option for people who didn't follow trends. And now it feels like Subaru is desperately trying to fit in with the mainstream crossover crowd instead of owning what made them different. The taller stance, the boxier design, the premium materials, it all adds up to a vehicle that's trying to compete directly with the Highlanders and Pilots of the world. And maybe that makes sense from a sales perspective, but it comes at a cost. The Outback is losing the thing that made it special. It's becoming just another option in a crowded segment instead of being the alternative. I've been reading through forums and social media comments, and the pain is real. People are posting pictures of their old Outbacks with captions like, "This is what a real Outback looks like." They're sharing memories of road trips, camping adventures, and winter storms survived. They're mourning the loss of something that meant more to them than just a vehicle. And that's not something Subaru can fix with a press release about features and pricing strategy. But okay, let's keep it balanced here because I'm not trying to just pile on Subaru. They actually did get some things right with this redesign, and even the haters have to admit there are solid improvements. The interior tech is way better. That 11.6-inch touchscreen finally has a processor that doesn't lag like it's running on dial-up. The graphics are sharper, the response time is quicker, and the interface actually makes sense now. And thank God they brought back physical buttons for the climate controls. I cannot tell you how annoying it was trying to adjust the temperature through touchscreen menus while driving. Having actual knobs and buttons you can operate without looking is a huge quality of life improvement. Add in wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the tech experience is legitimately better than previous generations. The StarTech upholstery is genuinely practical. If you've got kids or dogs, that water-resistant material is a game changer. Spill something? Wipe it off. Muddy paws? No problem. It's durable and easy to maintain, which is exactly what an adventure vehicle needs. Cargo space increased slightly, and they redesigned the tailgate opening to make loading bulky items easier. These are the kinds of thoughtful updates that make daily life better. Under the hood, it's still rocking that symmetrical all-wheel drive system that's made Subaru legendary in snow and adverse conditions. You've still got 8.7 inches of ground clearance. The bones of what made the Outback capable are still there. This thing will still get you through a snowstorm. It'll still handle fire roads and camping trips. The core functionality didn't disappear. And when you actually compare pricing with competitors feature for feature, the Outback still comes out competitive. A RAV4 with similar equipment costs more. A CR-V loaded up will run you a few thousand extra. So yeah, the base price jumped, but Subaru isn't completely out of line with the market. They're playing the same game everyone else is playing. So where does that leave us? Here's my honest take. Subaru didn't ruin the Outback, but they definitely changed what it represents. The soul shifted. It went from being the humble, function-first adventure wagon to being a more polished, premium-positioned crossover that's trying to appeal to a broader audience. And that shift is what's causing all the pain. The 2026 Outback is still a good vehicle. It's reliable, practical, capable, and loaded with useful features. If you're shopping for a mid-size family hauler that can handle weather and rough roads, this thing will absolutely deliver. But it's not the same scrappy underdog that built Subaru's reputation. It's grown up, put on a suit, and started caring about what people think. For longtime fans, that feels like betrayal. They fell in love with a car that didn't try to be fancy. Now it's showing up wearing designer gear and sipping craft coffee. It's still capable, but the vibe is different. And in the car world, vibe matters more than specs on a sheet. I get both sides here. Subaru is trying to survive in a market where wagons are basically extinct and every automaker is chasing crossover sales. They're setting up the Outback for a hybrid future. They're packing in the tech and safety features buyers expect. They're evolving to stay relevant. From a business perspective, I understand the moves they're making, but I also completely understand why fans are upset. When you build an emotional connection with a brand based on certain values, and then that brand pivots away from those values, it hurts. It feels personal. And no amount of market analysis or production cost explanations will change that feeling. So did Subaru sell out, or did they just adapt to survive? I think the answer is both. They made calculated business decisions that will probably help them stay competitive, but those decisions came at the cost of alienating the core fan base that made the Outback legendary in the first place. Whether that trade-off was worth it, we'll find out in a few years when the sales numbers tell the real story. One thing's for sure though, the 2026 Outback has people talking, arguing, and feeling things about a car. And honestly, that passion proves the Outback still matters. People don't get this worked up about vehicles they don't care about, so maybe, just maybe, Subaru still has a chance to win back those fans if they listen to the feedback and remember what made this thing special in the first place. Alright folks, that's my take on the whole 2026 Outback situation. Let me know in the comments where you stand. Are you team old school Outback, or are you cool with the changes? And hey, if this video gave you something to think about, show some love with a like and share it with your fellow Subaru fans who are probably also having feelings about this redesign. I'm Andrew from Motorreg, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe out there.